Alrighty guys, and welcome to today's cast. We have 6-star generals versus eternal nemesis. We are waiting for the last few people joining into the match, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. We've got a couple maps lined up today. We've got Quentin Scar, then we have Argonne Forest, and then we have Rupture if it goes to a third map. So we're just waiting on like 5 people from each team to load in, and then we'll grab ourselves a start time, and then we'll be able to get rocking. So let's go over where the capture areas are on St. Quentin Scar. So first off, we have the B capture area. It's the entirety of this broken down church and a little bit of this broken down building here, which gives some interesting gunfights because the British team has to run up this large hill here to get onto the B objective. So it's kind of hard for the Germans to run up there. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And then we have the A flag, which is over here, which is pretty much the whole area that my camera is on right now. And this flag provides some great close quarters combat and good CQB. It gives assault players the time to shine because there is no vehicles on this map, so this will be great for the assault players. And then if the British Empire, or the British continue doing well, they'll go up to the telegraphs, which one is located over here, and the other of which is located right over here. So both of these are somewhat difficult to get just because of how large of a hill the Germans have to climb, so it'll be pretty interesting to see how much the teams have trouble or how easily they run up this large hill. I know personally from my experience it's pretty difficult to run up this hill uncontested. So if the British are winning and the Germans are being pushed back, we'll go to the C flag, which is right here, which is this whole area pretty much, not including the street back there. So we've got these 2 buildings. This is another close quarters combat area, but it does give the team that's defending the C flag the opportunity to shoot everyone coming from B with their light machine guns once they're pinned up, and everyone running down the hill is pretty wide open. And then if the British are successful in capturing C, they'll run over to the telegraphs, one of which is over here. It's somewhat out of the open. There's a couple good hiding spots. We'll see where people try to post up to defend here. It's relatively wide open once you get the plant off, so it's good for the attackers. The other one, which is a little bit more difficult to get in my opinion, is right over here. This is pretty hard to get to based on where the German spawn back on this hill. They've got pretty good sight lines, and once this long barn is blown up, it's pretty easy to defend. So we're gonna see I wouldn't say this is a pretty even map. It's not sighted like some other ones, so we're definitely gonna be in for a treat. So we're just waiting on a handful of people left to join in. I know there's some discussion on which team people think's gonna win. I personally think it's going to be a pretty close match. I'm not sure what everyone else is thinking in chat. We got one person that's betting on EN, or Eternal Nemesis. And I forgot to introduce myself to it. I am Mini Fiji. I'll be the caster for today. It's going to be a solo cast, so you have to listen to my voice the entire time, so hopefully it doesn't get too boring. But it does look like we're having a server reset, and that's just to get the game time back up and probably to get everyone on the correct side. And then once it's all set, we should have all the players in the server and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Great. So I personally have not casted a match on St. Quentin Scar before, so I'm pretty interested to see how it pans out. It's, at least from the public matches I've played, I know it's pretty interesting. The capture areas, at least for A and C, are fairly large, so you can have large squads of people pretty far away from each other. Through Facebook. What? Oh, okay. Something different. I was very confused for a moment. But waiting to load in, we can check out my progression for my tanks for the memories and see that I don't really play tanks very much. But enough about me. It's on to the match once this loads in. But St. Quentin Scar is pretty fun. There's a lot of there's a good mix of every single engagement range on this map. It's a little bit more medium range throughout as a whole, but especially when you get into the A flags and the C flags, it's a lot of close quarters. So light machine guns aren't super effective once people start getting onto the flag areas, but they'll be super effective pinning down everyone that's trying to run across the fields to get onto the flags. So it looks like we have 15 people on one team, 15 people on another. So we're just waiting on the start time, and each team needs one player to get in, but I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a minute or two. But it should go by pretty quick, and then we'll get the ball rolling with some awesome Frontlines action. Ah, in a monastery. That's what it's called, not a church. I should probably read the giant letters on the screen. But I'm pretty excited, especially with how the game's been playing, with Battlefield pretty much breaking itself. Having a private match with no lag is pretty refreshing. I know all the players love playing in these competitive matches. It brings a whole new dimension to the match because you play it differently than you would a public match. You have to watch your corners more. You have to watch your positioning more. You can't make as many mistakes. And we'll be able to highlight that a little bit later once the ball gets rolling on how good some of these players actually are. You'd be surprised. You make one simple, easy mistake, and that can end up costing you the game, especially in Frontlines, where winning by a flag advantage is massive, and I've seen those come down to only a handful of seconds, and it determines the match. Alright, and it looks like we are getting a 37-minute start time. So we will be rolling here in just under a minute and a half. So we have Eternal Nemesis versus 6-star Generals. I'm pretty excited for today's match. I'm not sure about you guys, but it's going to be a good one. So it'll be interesting to see each team's kit selection running into this B objective. I would take a guess of a high mix of assault players and medic to start it off, and then transition into support players later on once you cement yourself in the swag. But it'll definitely be interesting, especially with all the new guns that came out and the time to kill update. A lot of people have been switching to this SMG08 recently, and that's practically been the new Hellriegel. But that's also in part because of the sight issue with the Hellriegel currently. But we're 15 seconds to go time, and we'll see how each team goes. EN does look like they're 2 players down, but I would assume that they're still going to go regardless. Looks like one team spawned in, and I just didn't know the spawn areas. And we got the ball rolling. So this is going to be a massive engagement here. We see 6-star generals taking a little bit more of a back route where EN cements itself inside the monastery. There's going to be a lot of close quarters combat going on here. And we're already seeing multi-kills by TNT. So it looks like 6-star generals is taking the lead here. We do have a flanking squad by EN on the backside, but I do not think that's being super effective. They need to get some extra bodies on the flag. We have 6-star generals. They are doing pretty well. They're a little bit bunched up, especially with how this dynamite's going. And EN Savage Fugitive is taking advantage of that and taking out a handful of 6-star generals by himself. But it already looks like 6-star generals is taking a massive lead on this B flag already. So EN should start regrouping and getting set for this A flag. Or C flag, sorry. In 6-star generals, they have a flank going on right behind them, but I think it's a recipe of a little bit too little, a little bit too late. So we'll see how effective this flank is. While 6-star generals gets a handful of people onto the flag already. And it looks like the flank is not very effective. So they've been putting a lot of people into flanks. And so far it's not been super effective. It will mess up the spawns of 6-star generals, but 6-star generals already has most of their players on the flag already. So we're going to take a first-person perspective here of Dark Falcon so you can see how intense these close-quarter battles are. And it looks like he's using the Hellregal Factory. And just from his perspective here, you can already see that it is a crazy firefight in these close quarters. And it looks like EN is taking a lot more of this objective here. It's a lot more consistent, their gunfights at this objective. They're not getting caught out as much. And with this long open field that 6-star generals has to run through from B, if EN gets some good light machine gun placements, they'll be able to destroy 6-star generals before they even get to A. So this is what I was mentioning earlier with the long sight lines on these A and C flags. As long as you get cemented on the objective, you can get some great light machine gun placements. But it looks like there's a giant engagement going on the front lines here, and 6-star generals is making a comeback here. They managed to wipe off most of EN. If you look at the kill feed, it is all 6-star generals right now. And hopefully EN didn't get completely wiped with their squads. It looks like at least 1 or 2 of their squads got wiped here. And they're going to have a long hill to run down to be able to get onto this flag. But 6-star generals has to be very careful with how bunched up they are. There's a lot of AT rockets flying down. If they are too clumped up, they're going to get hit by some grenades and AT rockets, and those will kill out multiple of their players and give EN a time to recover. So it looks like EN managed to run back onto the flag even though they had multiple squad wipes go on. So let's jump on another first-person perspective. Looks like he's using the Fedorov Trench. And this is 6-star generals. I'm not sure how to say that name. But as you can see, it's a very tough close quarters engagement. As looks like he's submitted to the pressure there and was trying to go to revive some teammates, and it looks like he faltered a little bit. But EN has some pretty good positioning. I would spread out a little bit more just because 6-star generals is mortaring, but overall they have great positioning. I think EN will end up taking this flag if they can hold off as well as they are right now. But 6-star Generals is making a great push on this right side here with their assault players. They're picking off onesie twosies of EN, and EN's not being able to recover and get these critical revives off to capture the flag. So if 6-star Generals get a good concerned push here, they'll be able to neutralize this flag. They need to get their players from the back on. And it does look like EN ends up taking the flag here. So we're going to have to see how well 6-star Generals groups up after that rout on the A flag. Lunancy, I'm pretty sure it's a she. Oh, okay. Thank you, Severn. I was not entirely sure. But as you can see here, this is a great opportunity for the light machine gunners of 6-star Generals to shine here. I'm on the Hamburglar right here. And it looks like he does go down to one of the new guns, a Howl automatic. But EN is going for a flanking tactic here. They're sending a little bit of people on the left here through 6-star General spawn, and a little bit through this long hill here on the right from the C flag. So it looks like overall it's super effective. The kill feed is mainly EN right now. 6-star Generals is kind of trapped in this back portion here. And with how EN are wrapping around this objective, I think is very effective in picking off the remaining 6-star Generals on this flag here. So there is almost no 6-star Generals left alive on the map here. They're all at the bottom of this hill, so we're going to have to see how well 6-star Generals pushes up this giant hill here. We're going to see how deadly it is. They have multiple light machine gunners defending this hill. And 6-star Generals does have a couple people in the cap area, but they need to push up a couple more to be able to start neutralizing this flag from EN. But it's very tough for 6-star Generals to run up this hill, through all the light machine gun fire, and then become effective through all the suppression that they just received from the light machine gunners. So it does look like EN is solidified in taking this B flag. It's a great comeback from them from being pushed back initially. So it does look like 6-star Generals might be caught out on the retreat down to the C flag if they're not careful. And it will give EN a good advantage because 6-star Generals will not be able to squad spawn. And it looks like there's only a handful of those players left. And EN is doing the smart decisions of blowing up these buildings so 6-star Generals doesn't have an opportunity to hide. And as you can see on the kill feed, it is almost all EN right now. They're doing a great job of snowballing together. And now that they're cemented inside this C flag, we're going to have to see how well 6-star Generals pushes through their front lines right now. So let's jump on a first-person perspective of someone in a good position here. We have Savage Fugitive, who's using a little bit of dynamite, and it looks like he does go down to General Shotgun using the Hellriegel defensive. So it looks like 6-star Generals is having a little bit of a hard time crossing this street here, and Eternal Nemesis is doing a great job. 6-star Generals is having a little bit of a flank going on here, and that can be super effective in how their positioning is going right now. It'll be able to drag some people off the front lines of the defense of Eternal Nemesis and give 6-star Generals an opportunity to cross this street that's giving them so much trouble. So it does look like 6-star Generals is going to have to get in defensive positions here. I'm going to have to see how well the use of telegraphs are, the telegraph artillery strikes are, in stopping EN's push. And it looks like EN is having a strong push to a quick push, mind you, to the A flag. And we already have one person calling in an artillery strike, and then we have just one so far. Looks like they're saving the other one, or they weren't quite communicating that. So we have 6-star Generals. They went all the way. They went 100% on making sure that EN did not get the plant off, and it does look like EN is getting 3 people on the bomb here, and they did get an effective plant. So it looks like both of the flags both of the telegraphs are planted right now. This is going to be a high stress environment for 6-star generals. They're going to be all over the place. And it does look like they get the A defused, so they can focus a lot more on this B objective. And 6-star generals is doing the smart play of blowing up the walls in this long barn to give them a little bit more of an opportunity to defend this telegraph. But EN managed to slip in and blow up the B objective. The A objective was not successfully destroyed, and 6-star generals is calling in an artillery strike right now, and it looks like he is going to get a incendiary grenade off, and I don't think he was spotted. And we have an effective artillery strike from 6-star generals right now. It looks like EN went a little bit too hard. They need to leave a couple people back for some squad spawns. Look like they had 1 or 2 squads doing that in this large house back here. And 6-star generals is in great defensive positions. They're using light machine gunners on these long aisleways to defend these flags. They've got a bunch of people in this house right here, which is a great defensive position. It gives amazing sight lines towards this A flag. But it does look like 6-star generals is unaware of the flank coming from EN. It did look like it just got spotted out, but EN is managing to get a plant. And EN is doing the smart play of calling in a mortar, one of the support players to call in a mortar strike. They'll be very effective in defending this flag, and EN is in amazing position to defend this flag. 6-star generals is going to have to pull off a miracle to defend this telegraph. So they have multiple assault players running over the wall, but the dynamite is keeping them off. So we have multiple 6-star generals just beelining to the flag. We have Jerkas right there. He was almost defused it, and it does look like Eternal Nemesis will take the first map in a convincing fashion. And here we'll be able to see the A squad of the first map here, and his Eternal Nemesis, to not much of any surprise. As unranked game/private match, so I cannot show you guys the amount of kills that each team got, sadly. It looks like the server might have not been set up for long enough to give us some kills. But I was pretty excited. We'll have to see how well 6-star generals comes back on the more close quarters match of Argonne Forest that is coming up. But I definitely applaud Eternal Nemesis. They were on the back foot in the beginning of that match, and they rallied together and pushed forward all the way to the telegraphs in a convincing fashion. So now when we're loading into Argonne Forest, it's a little bit of a different game style than St. Quentin Scar. It's a lot more close quarters, shorter sight lines. The only real long sight lines that you have on this map is the C objective and a little bit of the D objective. Everything else is mainly close quarters combat, where the assault players will really have a time to shine. So we're going to quickly go over the different capture areas on this Argonne Forest map. We currently have the C objective. I would cover it all, but there's a bunch of trees. So it's this bridge area and the underlying area right underneath of it. Then if the Americans, or the doughboys if you will, successfully capture C, they'll be running over to the D objective right over here, and it's this large little peninsula and this underlying little bridge here. This is a very vertical capture area. It gives lots of flank opportunities. The spawn locations are a little bit weird for both teams here, and it's just awkward engagements, but medics and assault players will be able to shine here. And if the Americans keep pushing forward, we'll be able to get onto this E objective. It is surprisingly large compared to the Conquest map. And it is this entire area pretty much. We've got both bunkers inside the capture area and a little bit of the trenches back here. And then if the Americans push all the way through, we'll be looking at the 2 telegraph locations. These are some of the hardest in the game. We have one on the upstairs of this ruins of a building. And then underneath, if we fly down here, we'll have the 2nd telegraph. This is debatably one of the hardest objectives to take in the entire Frontlines game mode. If we zip over to the other map, or the other side of the map, we'll be able to see the B objective. And there's a question of what does the winner get? They get points in the standings. This is the World Qualifiers. And this is currently the North American Qualifiers. And they'll get points towards being able to compete in the World Finals of the tournament, which consists of Africa, North America, and Europe, and some oceanic teams. And it looks like I was not aware of the start time, but we are already starting. So we're going to have to see if 6-star generals can rebound after that loss on St. Quentin Scar. It looks like they've got some good positioning. Eternal Nemesis is favoring the use of the mortars, which gives their support players a little bit more utility compared to the normal just ammo boxes and suppressive fire of their light machine guns. But it does look like 6-star generals is taking advantage. I think it's in part due to the capturing of the underside of this map, and it looks like Ian had a great flank that 6-star generals was not aware of. It does look like Andrew did get meleeed. But it's going back and forth. Ian managed to take back. They captured the underside of this flag here. Sorry about running into all the trees. But it does look like both teams are managing to get off effective flanks. But Eternal Nemesis is taking a commanding lead on this flag now that they rebounded from that initial push. And it looks like we already got another knife. This is just showcasing how close quarters this map truly is. So it looks like both teams are just throwing bodies onto the flag, but Eternal Nemesis does have the advantage right now. It almost looks like both teams are trying to get melees off just to one-up the other team. But we see an effective light machine gun used by Death Row on this bridge here. And I think that'll cement 6-star generals in neutralizing the flag. But as you can see, the snipers are very difficult to use on this map, and it's mainly about how well the assault players and medics run on this map. So we'll take a first-person look at Oxide, and he's using the SMG-08. It is new and improved compared to the prior variants. So as you can see, it's very, very clustered, this area, and it's very hard to see anything. But it does look like 6-star generals is trying to get a little bit of a flank off and almost pre-position for the next area if they don't get this capture off. But it does look like EN, you can see a trend here. Whoever controls the bottom half of this bridge here will end up capturing the flag, and it does look like Eternal Nemesis was successful in their capture of this flag. So now we'll be going over to Grandma's house, or the B objective, which they're both commonly referred to. So 6-star generals is in relatively good positioning. They've got 1Z2Zs currently on this B flag, and Eternal Nemesis is running through this long tunnel. And if 6-star generals can effectively cut off this flag, they'll be able to do a great job of cleaning up the other players, because they won't be able to have reinforcements. But it does look like Eternal Nemesis is able to effectively run through that tunnel. Although 6-star generals are able to run in through the choke point from the bridge side. There's a couple players overlooking where 6-star generals have been running in, but I'm not sure that's inside the effective range of all their assault players. Seems like this could be a hard map to spectate. It very much is. There is a lot of trees that I bump into. It's very difficult to capture all the action. But as you can see in just a first-person perspective, you can see how crazy it is for just the players. You're looking left and right all the time, and there's someone popping up in a new area. But it does look like 6-star Journalist has great positioning right now. Yen is forced to go through the small choke points. But if they take over this little ridge line here, I do feel like they'd have a strong opportunity to get onto this B flag. But it almost looks like Eternal Nemesis knows that they aren't going to be able to get the flag. And we see our third knife of the game so far with the Dud Club. So 6-star Generals is effective in taking this flag here. So now we'll be on to B. Be on to C objective. And as you can see, Eternal Nemesis was aware they were not going to capture this B flag. And they're already pre-positioned on the C flag. And with how well Mr. Blonde is defending this little corridor, it's almost pushing the entirety of 6-star Generals back. So you can see how effective it is to pre-position on these flags. So as we can see here, Eternal Nemesis is pushing up relatively far to mess up the spawns of 6-star Generals. This can be an effective tactic as long as a flank isn't done by 6-star Generals, which it does look like they're sending 1 or 2 people back. So if the flank by 6-star Generals that's going on the left here is effective, I do think it will work in getting off the remainder of the EN players, because EN pushed really far forward to stop the spawns of 6-star Generals and mess it up, but that did leave only a handful of people on the flag. And with how fast these flags neutralize, it's very important to leave more than enough players on these flags. But as you can see, 6-star Generals managed to make the comeback here and capture the bottom part of the bridge. That is going to be the storyline in this match. Capturing the bottom part of the bridge is what will determine this game, at least on this C flag here. So you can see handfuls of dynamite thrown down, and there was another melee that I did miss, but I did notice it on the kill feed. So this is melee after melee, close quarters after close quarters, dynamite after dynamite. There's explosions left and right. This is a very hectic map for these players to play on. And there's people laying down just yards away from each other without sight lines. Like, we can go on a first-person perspective of he just died. Oh, yep. I have a curse of every time I go to spectate someone, they die almost instantaneously. But it does look like EN is doing an effective job of getting onto this flag. They have the bottom part of the map of the capture area secured, and 6-star Generals is trying to get off a couple of flanks, but I don't know if they're going to be super effective. We'll see how well 6-star Generals pre-positions onto this B flag. It looks like they're sending 1 or 2 people there already, but they're still attacking the C objective. The spawn location is a little bit better for EN in regards to getting onto this B flag, but we're going to see a giant engagement right here. Let's see who comes out on top. This will pretty much determine who gets the early lead on this flag, and it does look like it's relatively even right now, and 6-star Generals is having a little bit of a lead. So EN does have a handful of players already on the flag. It looks like that little squad or two that was fighting just from the C flag managed to stall out enough 6-star Generals before they were able to jump onto this flag. So EN is in great defensive positions here. And 6-star Generals is being funneled. So they're going to be spawning in 2 locations, on the right over here where the skill feed is, and on the left where 1 or 2 players are. So Ian is in really good positions. They're hiding in locations that'll force 6-star generals to run out into the open and give the opportunity for the people hiding further back to gun them down. But it does look like 6-star generals is taking a better foothold in this building here, but a lot of grenades and people hidden, like this sniper right over here. Like, look at how close these players are. This is how hectic this map is, and they don't even see him. But this is a great position by this sniper. He did get incendiary grenaded, but that is why 6-star generals was having such a hard time to capture this flag, because of all the players of Eternal Nemesis just hiding in the backlines. So we do have some mortars coming down. It does like Eternal Nemesis is favoring coming from the C side of this flag. This is a good thing because it gives a little bit of verticality to their attack, and it also gives them good positions to defend if they do not take this B flag. So we're going to have to see if Eternal Nemesis can get the required bodies onto this flag. I'm not sure they'll be able to do that, but if they continue the trend of great positioning when they do know that they're going to lose the flag, I think they're going to be in great shape to capture the C flag again. So you can see Eternal Nemesis is in great positions to defend the attacks by 6-star generals along these sidelines. But I would not be surprised they have a little bit of a flank going on back here. But there is some gas down. I do think 6-star generals, this could be an effective attack if they pull enough of Eternal Nemesis off the flag. But it does look like Eternal Nemesis did sniff out this flank, and it is not going to be very effective. But it did pull a lot of Eternal Nemesis off the flag, so it could be effective and give the rest of 6-star generals the opportunity to respawn and attack the actual front lines. We do have a little bit of flanking still going on here, but it does look like that's been thwarted. So as we can see again, Eternal Nemesis does have the underside of this bridge captured. It's forcing 6-star generals to spawn back here in these long sight lines, but the 6-star generals is doing a great job of continually flanking here. But Eternal Nemesis is already up to 6-star generals flanking routes. They are sending a handful of people here, but I would think it'd be a good idea for 6-star generals to already pre-position on this flag here. They do have 1 or 2 people here, but it does look like the support players that are on this B flag were caught a little bit off guard with how quick Eternal Nemesis got onto this flag. As I keep running into trees, we'll go on a little bit of a perspective of EN here. So this is almost in the spawn of 6-star generals, and as you can see, it is very hectic. Alright, let's back up a little bit here. And as you can see, it is all Eternal Nemesis on this capture area. As soon as it becomes live, which it just did, Eternal Nemesis will have no problem capturing this flag. 6-star generals is going to have to come up with some sort of flank, but with how effective they've been as of late, I'm not sure they'll be able to pull that off. The hard part about this map is how much the choke points are. There's so many choke points, especially this one right over here that we're taking a look at. It really funnels a lot of the players into these positions. And there's another knife by Ian. It looks like he's like half glitched. But as you can see, it is very close quarters, as I've been saying before. But 6-star generals is getting a couple flanks off. It could be effective if they get in the proper positions. There's a triple kill and a suicide by one of 6-star generals Durakash 89, and that was effective in putting a dent in, but 6-star Generals was aware that they were going to lose a flag, and they went in defensive positions to stop the push by Eternal Nemesis. So 6-star Generals does have good positioning. I'm not sure if they blew up the explosives in here just yet. That could be massive if they blow these up. And it looks like one of those was blown up, and another one was blown up. So that gave way for Eternal Nemesis to run into this flag and almost already take it over. So it's very difficult to see where they're coming from here. A lot of people are inside the bunker. No one's going the train track side yet. So 6-star Generals is spread out in their defense right now, but it is good because it's forcing Eternal Nemesis to get into gunfights off the flag. That is what you want to do. You want to keep them off the flag in gunfights. If you're effectively winning them, is a great tactic. So it looks Eternal Nemesis did manage to get this part of the bunker. They did not blow up the doors, they just managed to sneak in here. So they do have a couple people from Eternal Nemesis pushing on these on this railroad side, but they are locking the doors by 6-star Generals. That's a very good heads up play by their players. I mean, are we going to see another knife? No, we are not. I'm pretty excited when we get to see a knife in competitive game. It's some great way to poke fun at each other. But it does look like 6-star Generals managed to defend this point because they had both of the bunkers. Eternal Nemesis was held off long enough to where they were unable to attack into the objective. But it looks like we did get another knife. But as we can see, smart heads-up plays by Eternal Nemesis. They are already pre-positioned onto this flag. And the rest of 6-star Generals are still stuck on this A objective because Eternal Nemesis is doing exactly what 6-star Generals did to them on the A flag. They're getting into gunfights prior to the flags. So it's forcing multiple players of 6-star Generals to get stuck in these long engagements before they can even get to the flag. It's just delaying their attack by that much. But 6-star Generals are changing up their attacks a little bit, and they're going from this railroad side. It does look like Eternal Nemesis are making the correct callouts with where they're attacking from, but they might get fully flanked. They're getting surrounded almost by how the spawn locations are working. As you can see, there's blue on every which angle. It's forcing the players of Eternal Nemesis to have to look in multiple directions and to avoid gunfire. But if Eternal Nemesis can clean off these onesie twosies and all these random directions of 6-star Generals, they'll be able to take this flag relatively effectively. And we got to see another knife go on. It is crazy. And another one. This is almost knives every few seconds. But Eternal Nemesis is doing a great job. 6-star Generals is focusing a lot on the flanks. They are relatively effective, but they don't get the bodies on the flag. They're dropping a lot of Eternal Nemesis's players, but Eternal Nemesis is very medic heavy right now and is very effective on that B flag because assault players are not super effective in those longer engagement that the B flag provides. So we're going to have to see if Eternal Nemesis will be able to get into the bunkers here. 6-star Generals does have great positioning, but Eternal Nemesis is doing somewhat similar to what Eternal Nemesis did on this B flag, and they're getting into every which way. They're getting onto the objective in every which way. I'll try to get a good sight into the insides. It's going a first-person perspective. We're on King the Fire. It looks like he is using the Parabellum that's currently not on his screen. See if it'll fix. It is not. So we're gonna look at Ender right now, and it does look like 6-star Generals is getting a little bit ahead, and that's just because 6-star Generals does have a little bit spawn. So 6-star Generals, it does look like they're being pushed off a little bit. Eternal Nemesis did manage to get the bunker. The bunkers are huge here, but 6-star Generals does have a lot of people on the outsides laying down, shooting assault or AT rockets in, and setting up their light machine guns, which is a very effective tactic. But with Eternal Nemesis capturing the flag, it's forcing 6-star Generals to go on aggressive attack, aggressive positioning. They're going to have to run in and clean up 1 or 2 players. And if we zoom in here, we can see that 6-star Generals is trying to do exactly that with a bayonet charge. It is slightly effective, but with how hard it is to run up these tunnels, I don't think, without a good grenade, and right as I say that, a triple kill comes out from Eternal Nemesis right after a handful of grenades were thrown in by 6-star Generals. And if it does look like they'll be able to break through, I'm going to jump into a corner here just so you can see how many players of Eternal Nemesis are in these bunkers. So there's a handful of players. It is very dangerous for anyone to even attempt to run in here. So 6-star Generals is managing to wipe off a lot of Eternal Nemesis players on this A flag. And that's due to the effectiveness of all the assault players. There's a lot of dynamite being tossed out. So if we run back outside here, we can see that it is all a fight between the outside of the bunker to the inside of the bunker. So if we go to the tabletop view, we can see that there's a handful of 6-star Generals on the outside and a handful of EN running for a flank. I do think if 6-star Generals tried to attack on this railroad side, that they would be effective in taking the flag, but Eternal Nemesis is running in. I'm going with this tabletop view to give you a little, it's a lot easier to highlight where the players are through the bunker. But it does look like 6-star Generals is getting wiped off a little bit. Let's go back to a overhead view so we can get a little bit closer in here. And it looks like Eternal Nemesis was effective in running into this open area and wiping a couple people off. 6-star Generals is just pretty much going balls to the wall and running in with bayonet charge in an attempt to clear off some people. But 6-star Generals is taking the right initiative and running through both sides of the capture area. And it looks like there's only a handful of people of Eternal Nemesis left on this flag. And is doing a good job of closing these doors. It is forcing Eternal Nemesis to be careful. But with 6-star Generals taking a two-sided attack, it's forcing Eternal Nemesis to not be able to stand next to any of the walls because the AT rockets are too effective in shooting into the flags. And if 6-star Generals is effective in stopping this push here, I think they'll be able to take this A flag back and start working on this B capture area. And it does look like, right as I say that, Eternal Nemesis runs in with a flank, and it looks like it was a hair too late, but it is going to be super effective in clearing off the remainder of 6-star Generals. This is going to give them a great advantage running into this B flag, because none of 6-star Generals are going to be able to squad spawn and get onto this flag. They're all going to have to spawn at their deployment. And with Eternal Nemesis running through their spawn here, it's going to really mess up where they're spawning. They're already somewhat funneled into one of the spawn areas. And Eternal Nemesis is very aware of where the 6-star General players are going to spawn. So we're going to go on to a first-person perspective of Mule Humfer, who's using the bar telescopic. That's not something you see every day. But as you can see from a first-person perspective, I couldn't even see where that guy shot him with the AT rocket. This is a very hard to maneuver and stay alive long map. It is very clustered, and it looks like there's a brief hiatus in the attack where both teams get some squad spawns off. So 6-star Generals is making a main attack on this front here. And it looks like Eternal Nemesis is getting a little bit more of the head start in their defensive position. That's why it's so important for teams to get on these positions before the other team. They need to get in defensive positions so all these light machine gunners, all their medics can get in proper positions in all the spots that they practice. So it looks like 6-star Generals is almost in defensive positions to start defending this A flag again. I think they're going to need to get a strong push off next time when they capture A to be able to contest this B flag more effectively. But as you can see, it looks like Eternal Nemesis is winning a lot of these one-on-one gunfights. We're going to have to see how well 6-star Generals is managing to block off this little choke point. Alright, and as we can see, Eternal Nemesis is being funneled into these two long sightlines. Eternal Nemesis is doing a good job of trying to cut off the spawning locations of 6-star Generals, but the only problem with doing that right now is they're not getting enough squad wipes for that to be an effective tactic. They need to get some bodies on. I would not be surprised if Eternal Nemesis is starting to run some bodies into this railroad side. It is a little bit more of a run for them based on where their spawn location is to run through this railroad track side. But it already looks like Eternal Nemesis is having a hard time running in, because let's go run in a first person perspective of the Reaper 7070 and we'll be able to see how difficult it is for Eternal Nemesis to even get some bodies on the flag. But as you can see, even 1 or 2 support players can stop an entire attack onto this flag with proper positioning. And in the meantime, when I was saying that, Eternal Nemesis managed to clear out the entire tree side open field of this A objective. 6-star Generals does have the bunker, which is the most important part of this A flag, on lockdown. So Eternal Nemesis is going to have to make an effective move to run in and defend it. And there's a lot of spot flares down. We can take a first person perspective on one of the recon players, or the scout players right now. And he's, as you can see, he's shooting a bunch of flares. The minimap is just filled with players of both teams on it. And it is just a cluster. And 6-star Generals is trying to get a couple flanks off, but if we look at the tabletop view again, it is almost all 6-star Generals in this bunker right here. Eternal Nemesis is getting a couple players, and I do like how Juracash was pushing on this little side here. It's forcing parts of Eternal Nemesis to get off the capture area, run out of bounds a little bit, and try to kill off these players. It'll definitely give 6-star Generals a cap advantage. And as you can see, it looks like that's an effective maneuver. Eternal Nemesis is trying to push on the railroad side, and we're going to go on a first-person perspective of Juracash here. And it looks like he just got killed by a AT rocket gun by Ender. And with the positioning that Eternal Nemesis has of players on both sides of this bunker, is forcing 6-star Generals to push away from the walls, and when they push away from the walls, the effectiveness of Eternal Nemesis grenades just goes through the roof. So it's great positioning by Eternal Nemesis right now, and 6-star Generals is running some great flanks. And Eternal Nemesis did lose their capture advantage, and it looks like 6-star Generals are pushing back. They're going to capture the area. There's only 10 minutes left, so the pressure is slightly on for 6-star Generals to make a comeback here, because they did lose the first map of St. Quentin Scar, and if they do lose, if they're still on the A or B flag when the timer runs out, Eternal Nemesis will take the win in this match tonight. So the pressure is definitely on for 6-star Generals to get the momentum back in their favor and start capturing these areas. And it looks like 6-star Generals are doing exactly that. They're on a long kill streak. Someone just got a double melee streak. I did not see that personally, but I did see it on the kill feed. So that is impressive play from both teams. And this is the definition of a World War I stalemate. And we just got another melee kill. There's melee kills every which way. And we're going to have to see how well the positioning is of 6-star generals running onto this flag. And it looks like Eternal Nemesis is leaving 1 or 2 players behind. And it doesn't look like 6-star generals have seen them yet. Well, let's focus more on the B flag. And it looks like Eternal Nemesis, again, has the proper positioning on this flag. It looks like it's giving 6-star generals a very difficult time trying to get proper positioning on this flag. Eternal Nemesis is just very much weighing getting position prior to losing the last flag. If they know they're going to lose the last flag, they start running to the previous objective. That is very good tactics. And as you can see, before medics can even run up and try to revive these players, they're just getting pinned down by all the Fedorov and longer distance medic guns of the other team in these great defensive positions. And Eternal Nemesis is in great positions. I do think that if this flank going on over here and Beef Supreme does manage to snuff out half of it, I think Jurakash is waiting for a defense, and it looks like he's in great position and he's just hiding. Wow, this is hilarious. That was pretty good. He managed to flank a handful of people. I could imagine that he's asking for multiple players. Let's see how effective he is on this flank. And it does look like he was spotted. He is using the SMG-08, which does have great kill potential. So he does have 2 available squad members that could spawn on him. Let's see if he's got one. He does not. He was probably under fire. And it does look like they are being pushed back. So we're going to have to see how well 6-star generals can go back and defend this area. 6-star generals are on the back foot here. They're going to have to make a concerned push to capture this A flag as soon as possible. And then hopefully contest on this B flag. But there's some great... I was going to say some great flanking opportunities from 6-star generals, but it does look like it was swept up by Eternal Nemesis. So Eternal Nemesis is doing a multi-pronged attack. They're going through 2 different directions on this open field side. And it looks like a lot of 6-star generals is being caught outside. And that's going to give the opportunity for Eternal Nemesis to run into this bunker and kill off the remainder of the 6-star generals, because there is a handful of people in there, but if they just throw bodies at it, I think they can mop up the 1 or 2 players, or the 1 or 2 squads that are in here right now. But it does look like 6-star generals did have the opportunity to squad spawn in after those squad wipes, or spawn in and get back on the objective after the squad wipes and get back into that bunker. So I don't think it would be super effective for Eternal Nemesis to run into that flag here. But Eternal Nemesis is getting the number advantage on this flag, but 6-star generals manages to start pushing it the other way. This is very vital to their comeback here. With only 5 minutes and 45 seconds left, they need to make a large push so they can push it to a draw and or try to take the victory here. It's the oldest rivalry in Tier 1, I've been told, from Eternal Nemesis and 6-star generals. But this is some great positioning. We'll try to take a first-person perspective on one of the light machine gunners aiming at the door here, which is Mr. Mule here. And it looks like he's the one that's using the bar telescopic, which is not a very common weapon, at least in my time playing the game. But it does have great fire rate, and with the bipod, it gives it almost 0 recoil, which I know was an issue where a lot of people weren't using it after the update. But it does look like Eternal Nemesis did have an effective use of the dynamite here, and they are clearing out the bunker. Eternal Nemesis does not want to give 6-star generals an opportunity to push back and win. Let's go to a tabletop view here. As you can see that there's almost no 6-star generals on this capture area. But it is forcing Eternal Nemesis to be wary of attacks from multiple different directions, but it does seem like they have it relatively on lock. They have onesie twosies running through the field here, and it does look like they're being taken out relatively effectively. And the kill feed is roughly all Eternal Nemesis. As you can see, the defensive positions are very important. It gives an advantage to the defenders, especially with how they changed the slide mechanic. The defenders have the advantage now. It's not the attackers having the advantage. So it looks like Eternal Nemesis is going to take the flag. I would suggest that 6-star generals play a little bit more defensive, so Eternal Nemesis doesn't have the opportunity to run in and do some crazy flanks. So 6-star generals does have a couple players on. This is good use of the flares. The flares will spot out all the enemies on the other team and give effective artillery strikes. So it does look like Eternal Nemesis is focusing on this A flag, but there's an effective flank by 6-star generals. But Eternal Nemesis did manage to get a plant off. It's Beef Supreme. Even if all the players that did plant the objective go down, it's going to force all of 6-star generals to start throwing bodies at it because they don't want to lose. And this will give an opportunity for people to just grenade spam in. And now, in the meantime, Eternal Nemesis is starting to plant on the B objective. It did look like they had a little bit of miscommunication on who was going to plant there, but they still managed to get an effective plant off. Eternal Nemesis is in great positions here to get this attack. There's a handful of 6-star generals running towards the B objective. The A objective goes down. There's some close players in proximity to this B flag, but it does look like Eternal Nemesis is in great position to take this objective. 6-star generals need to get some bodies over here quick, but with the position of Eternal Nemesis and the long sight lines, their light machine gunners are able to get into position. There's one player on, and he does manage to get to defuse. That's a very clutch defuse. This is going to give a great opportunity for 6-star generals to get back in the game. It's going to force all of Eternal Nemesis to back up and pretty much say, how did that get defused? It puts them a little bit off kilter. So 6-star generals is having a massive attack on this left side here, trying to get on this flag. It doesn't look like it's super effective, but the last defuse also was a surprise defuse. A couple of assault players are running in. They're wiping out a couple of players. I'm not sure whose smoke grenade that is, but that's going to be super effective. They're taking out the flags. They have a defuse going on right now. He does get killed off by Homicidal. Can they get another one? And they do not. And it looks like Eternal Nemesis will take the game in an exciting finish with a ninja defuse and almost a second defuse at the buzzer. And here we can see the A squad, which was on 6-star generals, to just show you how much of a good fight each team were being pushed up. And this time we can actually see the kill feed. As you can see on the right, the German Empire, which is Eternal Nemesis. On the left was 6-star generals. And as you can see, both teams do have a handful of players with high amounts of kills, but this was just a game of positioning. Argonne Forest especially is very much favored with who gets the better positions, with how many choke points are leading into these objectives. But it was a great play from both teams. So we'll be able to see if they're going to be able to go to a third Just for Fun map in just a moment. Alright, it does not look like they are playing a third match. So, I thank you guys all for tuning in today. I am Minifigi, and this was a cast for Tier 1 Gaming's 100-Day Offensive North American Qualifiers. And thank you guys for watching.